Hi everyone. I wanted to share some thoughts connecting the Navamsha, which is a divisional chart mainly used in Vedic Astrology, to the human design gates, which come from the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. In both systems, we use the zodiac to calculate the planetary positions, and we place the hexagrams around the wheel. Of course, the zodiac is an archetypal image. It's a measurement of time with respect to the path of the sun going around the earth, geocentrically speaking, or heliocentrically speaking, the earth going around the sun. So we have a circle of 360 degrees. We divide the circle into 12 portions of each 30 degrees. Of course, the path of the earth around the sun is 365.25 days about. So we slightly idealize that into a 360-degree circle. Let's say that twins are born only a few minutes apart. So they will have the same planetary positions. They will have the same rising sign because they're born in the same place. So how are we going to differentiate, astrologically speaking, how these lives are going to be so different? This is where the divisional charts come in. We can divide each sign into a different number of portions, and we can make new charts with that. And of course, there's specific rules to go about that. So each division correlates or connects to a specific area, a specific topic in a person's life, and it will help us get insight into more specific things. So astrology's way of differentiating is to divide the sign into different portions and make new charts with that. So the Navamsha, for example, Nava means 9, Amsha means division, so it's the 9th division, is dividing the sign into 9 equal portions of 3 degrees and 20 minutes. So we do that throughout the zodiac, and then we follow the natural sequence of the zodiac as a rule, and we make a new chart with that. So if you want to differentiate between twins, right, people that were born in the same place only a few minutes apart, we're going to need a division that is very time sensitive to make that distinction. So that's the way to deal with this. We are really microscopically zooming into any point, any degree in the big wheel, right? We can zoom into what that point, any planet, and that degree, or the eclipse point, the nodes of the moon, or any point, we can look at what it signifies on a deeper level when we really zoom into it by subdividing the signs and create new charts with that. So it's a very rational and practical way of differentiating. Now in human design, we have the 64 gates that we place around the zodiac. This is the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. Each hexagram is 5 degrees, 37 minutes and 30 seconds long. So it takes the sun about 5.7 days to transit one full hexagram. Of course, hexagrams, hex means 6, right, in Greek. It's composed of 6 stacked lines, either yang, full lines, or yin, which are, the lines with a gap in the middle, so they're used in different combinations. So each hexagram has 6 lines. So we have 64 hexagrams. Each has 6 lines. So we have 384 lines around the zodiac. So the sun transits it needs 22 hours to transit one line. So that's quite differentiated already. But each line is divided into 6 colors. Each color is divided into 6 tones, and each tone is divided into 5 bases. So there's in fact 69,120 bases at the core of the wheel. Now back to astrology. Let's say that Mercury was transiting the 3rd degree of Pisces on October 2nd, 2020. So of course the place of birth and the time of birth are already differentiating a lot. It's going to determine whether Mercury was in the 2nd house, in the 1st house, in the 4th house, for example, and so on. Now, in the case of twins, then we need to differentiate more. We need to divide the sign into a number of portions that make it really time sensitive. Now, in human design, we have 12 profiles, which the profile is the role that we play, basically. It's a lot more than that, but it's the role that we play. Now, there's 8 billion people on Earth. Millions of people are going to have the same profile. So it's a very generic thing in that sense. What is going to make it really unique, really differentiated, it's the substructure, right? It's the colors, or the lines, the colors, the tones, and the bases. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Navamsha, the ninth division. See, in Vedic astrology, the Navamsa is used to assess one's marriage life, which is a part of one's dharma. Dharma means nature. It's a part of one's responsibility, really. The Navamsha is a chart that gives insight into one's natural inclination. When we look at Gemini's Upadesa Sutras, which is a great, fascinating astrological text, it's coded in Sanskrit. It talks about the Atmakaraka, which is the self-producer or the soul producer, which is the planet with the highest degree in the horoscope. The Atmakaraka's placement in the Navamsha is the core of the analysis. It's where the whole Gemini analysis is based on. It's a very, very unique system, very simple, clean cut. It's about, you know, the concrete things that we can have and have not in our lives. It's really fascinating. So also, Gemini uses the Navamsha to calculate yogadas, which are power points. So it makes a planet very powerful. And then when you look at its respective dasha, so when the planet becomes center stage in one's life, and if it has a lot of juice, if it has a lot of power, then we can predict certain things from that. Okay, now in astrology, the ninth planet is Ketu, or the south node of the moon, which also has a spiritual connotation. It's the significator of liberation. So we can connect those. So the number 9 is important. Navamsha is very important. Kian Rao, the famous Indian astrologer, extensively uses it in predictive astrology, also to assess dignity and so on. Now, why the sun? In astrology, the sun is the natural Atmakaraka. Atma means self or soul, and Karaka is the producer. All planets revolve around the sun. The path of the sun is the ecliptic. It is the zodiac. All planets reflect the light of the sun. The sun is that eternal spark. The sun is our inspiration, our core identity, also our ideology. The sun is the source of life. Now, from human design, we know that 70% of the neutrinos that travel through our solar system come from our sun, which is the closest star to us. The other 30% come from other stars, and to a much lesser extent from Jupiter, which also emits neutrinos. Jupiter has a similar composition to the sun. The other planets don't emit neutrinos themselves, they just filter neutrinos. Now, what are neutrinos? Neutrinos are these subatomic particles which are capable of going through any atomic barrier. They travel 1 or 2% slower than the speed of light. So they're not like photons, they're not like pure energy. They're actually capable of leaving an imprint. They are carrying mass, so they carry information. So neutrinos are referred to as the breath of stars, right? They are the energy that is released through stellar fusion. And from design, we know we have a personality crystal and we have a design crystal. They're not really crystals, but it helps visualize it. They're kind of have a crystalline structure. This is how Ra referred to it. There's some kind of dark matter instrument. And these filter the neutrinos in a very specific way, right? And of course, this is determined by the date, the place, and the time of birth, right? So it's important to have accurate birth time. So these neutrinos are being filtered through these crystals, right? And these two crystals, the personality crystal and the design crystal, are being held together by what is called a magnetic monopole, right? This is a particle that carries a single magnetic attraction, right? It's like a south pole or just a north pole. It's a monopole. The magnetic monopole holds these two crystals in some kind of symbiosis. It holds the structure together in the illusion of our separateness. Neutrinos is the stellar information that we receive. They go through the planets, right? Let's say that the neutrinos, before they hit us, before they hit Earth, they go through the planet Mars. And so they exchange information with what's happening in Mars, with Mars, and then we also receive that imprint. Okay, so that is being reflected in the body graph in human design, and so from that we can derive all sorts of characteristics, and we can go quite detailed with that. So the sun is very important in both systems. In astrology, it's the natural Atmakaraka, And in human design, it's of course, the personality sun earth is 70% of the conditioning that we receive. So I think it's worthwhile looking at the sun's Navamsha and its respective gate. Let me give an example. Let's say that the sun is at 17 degrees, 4 minutes and 43 seconds of Virgo in the big wheel in the zodiac. That corresponds to 3 degrees, 42 minutes of Gemini Navamsha. The gate that is connected to that degree is the 20th gate, line 4, application. The 20th gate is the gate of the now, right? It's on the throat center. And the 4th line is application. So Jupiter is a prominent planet there. It's about the teacher. More specifically, the theme is the teacher whose students transcend him. Okay, so I'm using the coordinates of a person that I know very well, for whom teaching is a very important, prominent thing. So you can look at the sun's Navamsha gate and see how it resonates with you or with someone you're doing a reading for. Now in human design, the 7 traditional planets, the 3 outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and the north and the south node of the moon, so Rahu and Ketu, right? They trigger gates. So these are 13 significators that trigger gates. Asteroids, planetoids, any other point is not triggering gates. That doesn't mean, of course, that we can't look at those points, those planets, those, for example, the ascendant degree or the midheaven cusp and so on with respect to the gates. You can do that. If you're into Gemini astrology, so as I mentioned before, they're the Atmakaraka, which is the planet with the highest degree in the horoscope, excluding Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto because they were not around then. So this is a very important point, right? This is the planet that is most intimately involved with your soul's maturation process, is a way of translating it. So you can look at that planet, its respective gate in the body graph, and perhaps that will have a little more weight compared to other points besides then the conscious sun and earth, right? So again, things to experiment with. The goal is to derive meaning from it and see how it plays out. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you later.